Let your imagination go back in time to a snow-covered and ruined street in Europe in the winter of 1946. The war had ended, but the dark shadow of decay was only just beginning to envelop the survivors. You are standing there, hiding pure gold coins inside your old coat, the asset your family traded blood and tears to preserve for half a decade. You always believed that when all paper money became meaningless trash, this gold would be the ticket to saving the lives of your loved ones. That fateful day finally knocks on your door when your little daughter collapses from an infectious fever. You step into the underworld of the black market, face the most ruthless smugglers, and place your sparkling gold coin on the scale. But the underworld's reaction is a cold and disdainful shake of the head. The smuggler does not desire your precious and immortal metal. What he truly wants is a cheap pack of cigarettes from an American soldier, a bottle of strong liquor hidden in an underground cellar, or a tiny dose of antibiotics that you have absolutely no ability to possess. In that moment of ultimate despair, your gold coin is stripped of all its historical glory. It is downgraded to merely a bare, beautiful piece of metal, yet completely useless in the face of the fragility of human life. This is the fatal flaw in the subconscious of millions of modern investors, who blindly believe that precious metals are the ultimate shield in a doomsday scenario. The myth of economic collapse is often woven into a very stereotypical and safe script. Financial experts constantly preach that when governments recklessly print money and inflation swallows purchasing power, people will automatically return to gold and silver as a primal instinct. They paint a scenario where commercial activities still run smoothly, where supermarkets are still fully stocked, only you will pay with gold coins instead of paper bills. But the history of collapsed economies tells a much bloodier and more ruthless story. When a monetary system dies, commercial activity does not switch payment methods, rather, it completely freezes and disintegrates into fragments of despair. The vast macroeconomic economy suddenly collapses, shrinking into life or death transactions between individuals pushed to the brink. In a world stripped of order, the value of an item is no longer backed by 5,000 years of history or complex metallurgical properties. Value is now dictatorially governed by a single cruel variable, the urgency of survival needs. A mother holding her child fading from hunger does not need asset preservation for the next 10 years. She needs practical calories to maintain her child's heartbeat right today. A man battling an infected wound does not need a metal that can resist the corrosion of time. He needs a dose of antibiotics before bacteria invade and completely destroy his circulatory system. Gold is an elite asset. It requires a market to operate smoothly and peacefully, with people who have abundant resources to hoard for the future. But in the first weeks or months of a widespread crisis, stability is a luxury item that simply does not exist. At this point, psychologist Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs becomes the sole constitution governing all human behavior. At the bottom of this pyramid are the ultimate, unpostponable physiological demands, including food, clean water, warmth, and the reinforcement of physical health. All social resources are drained to serve this brutal bottom tier, turning things that directly solve survival problems into the sole currency. Gold, ironically, sits proudly at the very peak of the hierarchy of needs. It represents self-esteem, long-term security, and a solidly guaranteed future. Those are incredibly luxurious concepts for people struggling to survive the cold night ahead. You cannot chew a gold bar to soothe a gnawing pain in your stomach. You cannot set fire to gold coins to warm your family during a harsh winter. Nor can you dissolve gold in water to disinfect a cut showing signs of necrosis. In the epicenter of the collapse, precious metals are merely promissory notes written in an ancient language, which no one in this maddening world is calm enough to translate. So what will truly take the throne to run the economy of the survivors? The answer lies in small consumable items, things we often take for granted during peaceful days. On that list, nicotine products, especially cigarettes, always hold the supreme position in every prison and every war. The fact that cigarettes become currency is not a symbolic phenomenon, but an economic mechanism that has been measured and proven through a series of historical data. In post-war Europe, a single tiny cigarette could easily buy an amount of food equivalent to the living expenses of an entire long day. The core reason is that cigarettes solve an incredibly brutal physiological need, which is addiction. Nicotine is not a luxury good for enjoyment, but for millions of people, it is a mandatory sedative to keep the nervous system from shattering under pressure. Moreover, cigarettes possess the perfect characteristics of the most optimal unit of currency. They are lightweight, easy to conceal, standardized in size, and most importantly, can be divided down to individual units to serve the most trivial transactions. Conversely, a gold coin is too large and too expensive to buy a moldy loaf of bread. You cannot use a saw to cut a gold coin into tiny pieces without losing its denominated value. The second commodity that carries absolute power is strong liquor. If cigarettes quench the thirst for nicotine, then alcohol is the most ancient remedy for humans to escape from extreme physical and mental pain. In any social rupture, when clinics close and medicine becomes a luxury good, alcohol will immediately return to its original role as an anesthetic and an antiseptic solution. High-proof hard liquor is the only weapon you can use to wash wounds, sterilize crude surgical instruments, and prevent the spread of infectious diseases. Not only that, a sealed bottle of whiskey can defy the erosion of time, preserving its exchange value over decades, not inferior to precious metals. However, the asset that can most ruthlessly dictate the boundary between life and death is antibiotics. The modern generation of Americans has become too accustomed to being enveloped by a massive healthcare system, where a scratch or a fever are merely minor inconveniences. We have forgotten that, before penicillin was mass-produced less than a century ago, a sharp thorn piercing the hand could also be a death sentence. When the global pharmaceutical supply network breaks down, ordinary bottles of antibiotics will instantly turn into priceless diamonds. History in South American countries has recorded grim truths, where people had to strip off gold necklaces just to exchange for a tiny dose of fever-reducing medicine for a dying child. The fourth pillar supporting human survival is concentrated energy. Our civilization is not built with Federal Reserve paper bills, nor is it built with gold bars lying dormant in vaults. It is created and operated by continuous energy flows of gasoline, diesel, natural gas, and thermal energy. When the energy distribution system is paralyzed, anyone who controls fuel reserves automatically becomes the new king of the underworld. Gasoline and oil cannot be printed from government machines. They require massive refining and transportation systems. Gold cannot replace fuel to warm a family freezing in a blizzard. Nor can it help a water pump start working again. But if you only stop at consumable items, you will only prolong your existence for a few short months. To truly master your destiny and rise as a new power, you must hold the fifth asset category in your hands, which are means of production. Agricultural seeds, farming tools, water filtration equipment, and hunting ammunition are the roots of the most sustainable wealth. While cigarettes, alcohol, and medicine will be depleted with each use, means of production continuously generate new surplus value over time. A sprouting seed not only provides food for today, but it is also a solid commitment to the safety of an entire family in the harsh seasons to come. Individuals who possess this self-sufficiency capability do not need to step into the black market to trade. They are miniature states, completely independent and with absolute sovereignty. This is the moment we must face a brutal truth about the most fierce wealth redistribution process in history. Wealth is not naturally created or destroyed, it merely transfers from the hands of those who blindly trust abstract assets to the hands of those holding tangible material values. This shift will flatten flashy financial charts, destroy paper portfolios, and honor tangible values. Many people will lose their entire fortunes just because they prepared the wrong type of weapon for a war with no rules. The most law-abiding citizens, who work the hardest and place their full trust in pension funds or insurance, are exactly the first victims to be ruthlessly betrayed by this system. However, the greatest paradox of the art of survival lies in the element of timing. Every crisis, no matter how brutal, will eventually reach its end. Social structures will gradually recover. New currencies will be established, and stability will return. When the dawn of a new economic cycle begins, the order of value is once again completely reversed. Consumable items that were once more valuable than life itself now return to their truly cheap prices. And this is when gold, the metal once shunned in the ruins, rises to reassert its power of eternal wealth preservation. Those who were lucky enough to survive and still hold onto their gold will immediately become the new elite class of a newly reconstructed world order. The deadly trap that most amateur analysts fall into is that they only prepare for a single phase of the crisis. If you solely cling to gold bars, you will starve to death before the era of recovery arrives. Conversely, if you spend all your assets to hoard consumer goods, you will end up empty-handed and back to square one when society re-establishes its business order. The ultimate secret of survival is not choosing one over the other, but the sharpness and ruthlessness in deciding the timing to swap asset classes. It requires a cold head, sharp eyes to read the panic of the crowd, and a decisive decision-making ability between short-term survival and long-term prosperity. The record public debt figures of $34 trillion of the U.S. government, or the global debt exceeding the threshold of $300 trillion, are not baseless curses. They are the clearest physical indicators of the endurance limit of a financial system that is stretched to its maximum. The historical models we just dissected are not fairy tales to scare children. They are proven social mathematical formulas, always repeating with chilling accuracy whenever trust in fiat currency collapses. Analyzing these laws is not to spread panic, but a meticulous forensic process, helping us foresee the direction of asset flows. A dying economy never cares about how hard you worked, or how great the monetary history is. It only operates on a single elimination mechanism, asking you an extremely cold question. Right at this moment, what do you need to survive the night? The beautiful, abstract, and flashy things will be stripped of all power. The mundane, rough but practical things will take the throne. Recognizing this stratified value structure is the only key for you to escape the sinking golden lifeboat and find a truly safe shore. These truths are never taught in university lecture halls, but it is the unwritten constitution of every crisis. History always leaves clear rhymes, and the choice to listen or plug your ears and close your eyes is entirely up to your decision.